Hi, Beth Strathman here, leadership coach, and joining me today, I'm here with Liz Stincelli, a leadership consultant. And we're talking today about um, embracing a new leadership style that's more appropriate for the 21st century. How do you know it's not working for you? And how do you move or gain new skills that can help you be a better leader in today's workplace? So Liz, I've been thinking about this, and we talked about this in a previous video about the shift in what's expected of leaders today versus a decade or two ago. Um, and just kind of piggybacking off of some of the things that we talked about in that video. We talked about the nature of how leadership has changed in general from being task oriented to more relationship oriented. We talked about the communication style going from a more directive style to a more engaging people in dialogue and being more collaborative. And we also talked about, looking at my notes, where your power came from. And that in the past, your power was really mostly based on the position that you were in. And today, your power as a leader really comes from your ability to relate to other people and to be authentic and coming from that personal power perspective. So, what does one do you think, when they figure out or they look at their leadership and maybe they get feedback or something on their leadership that says, you're too invested in your status, you're too directive, and what's the other one? Oh, you're too focused on the task and just giving people orders.
I think the first thing you do is to realize that it's not just about you. You become a leader, it is not about you anymore. It's about your team and being of service to your team, making sure you're able to respond to the needs of your team, making sure that they have the tools that they need. So I think taking yourself, kind of stepping back for a moment and saying, okay, what does my team need me to be? Who do I need to become to be the leader that they need? I think that is probably the number one thing to do to get you started down the right road. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think it goes back to some of the things we talked about in that previous video, which is it's taking the focus off of yourself, like you're saying, putting it on the team or putting it on the work. What is, in order to relate better to my team, how do I need to do that differently? And how do I keep my team focused on the work? In addition to the team as a feedback source, I think your own boss, if you're not the CEO, if you are the CEO, probably the board chair, but your own boss can be a good source of feedback on what he or she sees as areas for you to come into a more 21st century leadership style as well. And I think the other thing is, in getting that feedback, I think that starts from a place of being open to the fact that you might need to shift some things and to find a different balance in all of this. Your thoughts?
Uh, Absolutely. As you and I had a conversation earlier outside of the video about being vulnerable, and I think that's really hard when we take on a leadership role because we feel like we are supposed to know it all, we are supposed to have it all under control, and that's not true. You have a whole team of experience and knowledge and skill to pull from, and we're so much stronger when we work together. We can't, no one person can carry the weight of that load all by themselves.
Yeah, I have to say, in my early years of managing other people, leading other people, I felt a lot of responsibility and pressure to be the person who knew the answer, to be the person who set forth the what we were going to do, how we were going to do it, when we were going to do it, that whole tasky thing that we were talking about. And I do have to say that as I got older and more experienced throughout my career, I think I came to the realization that really you're working with adults, right? And they have great ideas and different experiences experiences too. They may not be as experienced as you, but they certainly have a different perspective. And so honoring that and realizing that you don't have to shoulder that burden alone. You can be vulnerable and say, hey, I need some help here, and move forward that way. Engaging your team in that way can help you to shift from a more, for example, directive style to a more inclusive and collaborative style with people.
Well,
Cool.
and to go just along with that a little bit, also when you're in that directive mindset and that I need to know it all mindset, you tend to revert to blaming, looking for someone to blame, finger pointing, because you don't want to take responsibility for failures. You feel like you have to be successful at all times. Leadership is about taking the responsibility on yourself, kind of for your team. When there's something that goes wrong on your team, that kind of responsibility kind of falls on you, and it's not about blaming and pointing fingers. And when we feel like we need to be perfect, we tend to revert to that old way of find someone else take the blame for this. So
Right. So all of those tendencies, that perfectionism and everything else we've talked about, can keep us from making the shifts that we need to come into the 21st century, if indeed we still have leadership characteristics that we rely on too much that are more of those older style leadership things. Great discussion, Liz.
yeah, absolutely. We could go on about this forever,
Forever.
but for our listeners out there, we would like to hear, what steps have you taken to move your leadership to the next level in a new fashion? What ideas do you have that you might need to work on? With We're always open to hearing some great ideas, because we don't know everything, and we're always interested in learning what you have to say. So reach
Absolutely.
out to us.